All right, test, 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 test. We should be good to go. I think we're good. All right, let's do this. Okay. Welcome in, anyone. Hold on. All right, welcome in, anyone new. Today we're doing something pretty quick, simple, easy. I'm just going to go through 25 of the top questions that I get from different sets of buyers. And then that way, we can have a bunch of different stuff to put around and feel free to drop any questions in the chat if you come through. So here we go. Let's just start off simple. So this first one is just about buying. Okay. So first question is, how much do I need for a down payment? The easy answer is it depends. You can put as low as 0% down with things like VA loans if you're a military member, or if you are buying your first home, you can do different down payment assistance programs. Um, uh, FHA loans, which is typically what most people do for their first home. You can put as low as 3.5% down. 20% down is the typical what people always talk about, but you could it depends. It just depends on your interesting current situation. But yeah, you could put as low as zero down. I actually had a closing last week, where the buyers were teachers and they got a teacher grant. And as long as they stay in the home for 3 years, then the grant just falls off. The loan just falls off. So if you're a teacher, firefighter, police officer, different things like that, take advantage of those programs where you put 0% down, and then they walked away with actually a check at closing. They got I think it was $3,100 or something like that, and to just buy their own house. So imagine getting a check to buy your house. Okay, next one. What credit score do I need to buy a house? So again, it depends. If you go with a big bank, typically they're going to say 580 is the minimum for a FHA loan. Um, that's going to be your pretty standard thing. But I've seen loans go as low as 550. And then as far as investment properties, I've seen people loan somebody cash with terrible credit. So it depends again, but the general rule of thumb for most buyers is going to be 580 for a FHA loan. Should I get pre-approved or pre-qualified first? It's a good question. A lot of people don't know the difference between the two. So the first one is pre-approved. Pre-approved is basically when the lender takes takes the information that you give them based on credit score, based on the income that you input and stuff like that. They take that and show you how much you'll be qualified for the home. Pre-qualified is a much more in-depth thing. So means you're fully underwritten. So this is when you go in and they check your income docs, they check your taxes, all of that stuff, and make sure that it's good. And then once you're fully pre-qualified, you are once you're fully pre-qualified, then you're as good as cash. You don't need any contingencies. You don't need anything like that. You've been fully underwritten, and the lender is like, "Hey, go buy the house." Okay, so it's usually better to get pre-approved to test what you want, what you like, get you a budget. But I would always suggest, before you start looking, go get pre-qualified so you don't have to worry about any hiccups along the way, and you can close a lot faster, which is very strong when it comes to this market, which you could be competing in some multiple offer situations. So you can close in as little as 8 days with somebody that's fully underwritten beforehand. So okay, so the next one is, what's the difference between a fixed rate and an adjustable rate mortgage? That's a good question. So fixed rate, simply put, it just means that your interest rate will not change. This is typically either a 15, 30. There's 40-year mortgages now. I don't know if there's 50. I think there's talks about 50, but 15, 30, and 40 are the popular ones. Um, And then you have an adjustable rate mortgage, which is when it can vary based on the terms of the loan. So a popular one right now that I just saw the other day is a 7/6 adjustable rate mortgage, which all that means is for the first 7 years, you get a lower interest rate. And then after that, they have a ability to change your interest rate every 6 months after that. So the first number in the adjustable rate mortgage is how long is the rate going to stay the same. The second number is how often can they change it after that period. So that's the biggest difference. Some of the adjustable rate mortgages really only make sense if you sell, refinance, or anything like that before the first number. So in the 7/6 example, if you plan on selling, moving, refinancing, anything like that in the 7 years, then I would 100% just go that option. That's the main risk is that if rates don't change or they go even higher, then you could risk seeing a big jump in monthly payment after that first term mortgage. So most people just go with the fixed rate just because it's more consistent. But I would say if you're a little bit more savvy, um, play around with the adjustable rate mortgage because it can get you a much lower monthly payment in the first couple years. So, all right, how much are closing costs and who pays them? That's a good question. How much are closing costs? Closing costs are typically anywhere from 1 to 2% of the sales price. And so uh, you have your title fees, your escrow fees, all of those different things that get added up to make your cash to close, which is plus your down payment. Um, so it just depends on the deal. Now, who pays for them? It really doesn't matter. That's the best part. So if you get a good agent, I would 100% say, especially in a market like this where buyers are having a little bit more power, try and get the seller to cover those costs because they could go higher. You could use them for a rate buy down. You can use them for uh, your rate buy down. You could use it for literally anything that's not the down payment. So I was talking to somebody yesterday, or we were talking about you can use a seller credit. Um, you can get seller concessions to go towards to prepay your private mortgage insurance. So I learned that yesterday. So you can use those concessions to cover your closing costs, and then uh, that's the main market of the moment right now. So how much your closing costs? 1 to 2%. Who pays them? It depends on the deal. Is it better to buy or rent right now? Short answer is always better to buy. Um, there is never a bad time to buy. There's only bad times to sell. The easiest example of this is in 2009 when we had the worst housing crash in history. Um, we would all still go back right now and go buy as many homes as possible. As long as that holds true, then it is never a bad time to buy, as long as you can hold out. I would say typically I wouldn't buy a short-term home, not right now. Like if you plan on moving in 3 years or 2 years, or well, not moving, but selling the home in 2, 3 years, then it might not be the best play. But if you can hold out your home for 7 to 8 plus years, which I would recommend, and then just turn it into a rental, that is what I would do. So if you're gonna buy a house and then just want the flexibility, which is a lot of people's objection, I'd buy a house and then move out of it in 2 years after you can get a new FHA loan and then just rent it out. And then you can go stack properties like that. It's kind of what we call the soft house hack, as opposed to like living in a multifamily, but you could do that as well. So short answer is it's always better to buy than rent because rent, you never see that money again. When you buy a home, the principal payment that you pay every month for your mortgage is essentially just moving it from your checking accounts to a savings account, which is your house. So, what is earnest money and how much should I put down? How much should you put down? I'll answer that one first. It depends on how much money you have. If you want to avoid private mortgage insurance, you'll need 20%. But other than that, like I would put the least amount down as you can as possible, just because I'd want to keep as much cash liquid as possible. But it truly depends on you. What's earnest money? Earnest money is essentially your skin in the game. So this is how you tell the seller that you're serious. This gets applied to your final closing statement at the end of the day. But it's typically 1% of the sale price. So if you buy a home, if you make an offer for 300,000, then it's $3,000 up front. But it's fully negotiable. Some people like to take it and go, "Hey, we're super serious, so we'll put $20,000 on a $300,000 home." Just to let the seller know that, hey, we're ready. And then, like I said, that gets applied to your closing statement, so you don't have to worry about like double paying and waiting for a refund and stuff like that. Cool. Let's do. So those are buying. Oh, let's do these market ones. Okay. So this one says is now a good time to buy, or is the market going to crash? Okay. Um, Kind of answered this one with the other one, but it's always a good time to buy. Sometimes it's a bad time to sell. That's the easiest thing to say. Like I said, if we were all go back to 2009, which the worst housing crash, we would still buy as many homes as possible. As long as that holds true, then you should always buy as long as you're going to hold the property. That's the biggest thing. Is the market going to crash? I don't have a crystal ball, so I can't say yes or no. But I will say I can take the numbers from the past, the current numbers, and then kind of try to predict what's coming. And just from the economic indicators, there is nothing suggesting a real estate crash. The only way I see anything like that happening is if the let me just say it like this: the reason all of this is coming up is because of the affordability crisis we have right now. Homes are going up too high and the wages are not matching it. So people can't afford the homes. And when inflation rising and stuff like that, it's just making it a lot harder to get in. The average first time home buyer right now is 38 years old, which is insane. So that is why everybody's saying they're saying like eventually, everybody is gonna have to the prices are gonna have to come down. The magic question is how are they mitigating it? So they have different things that they're like the different term mortgages and different ways to get in and the different programs and trying to do tax credits. Florida just got rid of property taxes. Like that is all things to try and get rid of the affordability thing. Now, just because somebody like in the Florida example, just because you get rid of property taxes, does that mean that it's not going to come up somewhere else? Then 100% you're going to see it somewhere else. The government has to get theirs, but at the end of the day, they're trying to find ways to get more people into homes without um, just losing a bunch of money. Which is why they can't drop interest rates, if that makes sense, because that's just going to drive prices back up again. So I think we stagnate on interest rates for a while. This will be kind of where they'll be for at least a few years, unless war or something crazy happens. But I'd say right now is consistent. Okay, so just think about that. But I do not foresee a market crash. I do foresee different ways to get prices down, though, or make homes more affordable, if that makes sense. Why are mortgage rates so high? Okay, that's kind of the same thing, but mortgage rates are so high right now because they're trying to combat all of the price inflations that we went through the last few years. So in COVID, obviously we saw 2%, 3% interest rates, um, which made the demand go crazy. So everybody was just buying houses, buying houses. And so like when that happens, demand goes up, then the prices also go up. So that's why they're trying to stop the prices from going up, to make it a little bit more affordable. But at the same time, you need lower interest rates to make it more affordable. So the government's kind of at like this limbo right now. So so that's the short answer is they're just trying to keep the prices down, if that makes sense. Which neighborhoods are appreciating the fastest? This depends on your market. Here in Dallas, I mean, appreciating the fastest. I mean, the tried and trues like your Highland Parks, University Parks, like the those, um, they haven't really had that big of a decline like some others have. Like Forney has been big decline, but it just depends. It depends. How do I find off market deals? A couple different strategies. One is a thing we call circle prospecting. You can pull the phone numbers of the neighbors around a certain address, and you can call the neighbors and see if they're interested in selling or if they would sell at a certain price. This is how we get a lot of new listings. This is how we market for our open houses. This is how we do a lot of different things. That's one strategy. Another is get becoming friends with as many real estate agents as possible. You take those agents and they will go find those off market deals because they might have pocket listings, which is essentially just an off market listing. And yeah, so I would use those two. Go befriend as many realtors as possible, and then if you're ambitious, go start calling some homeowners.